Right.
That's a good question, and there has actually been a lot of research in stylometry showing that writing style does change over time. Even with people, even if English were your native language, your writing style would change over time. The way you speak changes over time. So yes, I can't say for sure what the threshold is. I think it changes per person, but it does change over time, and that is part of the process as well. Like there is a temporal factor to it.
Okay, and it's likely to be lowered by people writing in the second languages.
I would imagine so, yeah. I would imagine that your writing style, for example, you said in just a few years, has probably changed a lot more than my writing style has in a few years in English.
Yep.
Yes, that's
Thanks.
a good point.
Okay,
Oh.
same mic. Same mic.
Okay, I have one question and one proposition.
Sure.
The question is the stylometry effective against oral speaking?
Against, I'm sorry?
Oral speaking.
Against
I can speak orally. Speak.
Oh, oral speaking. That is one thing that we are looking at. Is we were actually talking to someone else about it here, and we wanted to see what happens when you transcribe voice communication, and can this be applied against it. We have not looked at it yet. I don't know of any research that has looked at that, but that is a good idea and one that we are considering.
And the proposition is maybe for the authors of a document, maybe if you want to write a text, you just ask at 5 other authors to write text with you, and each author made some sentences mixed in the text.
That is an interesting proposition. One thing that I didn't really mention is that all the features that we looked at in this are sentence level features. They don't look beyond the scope of the sentence. So it is possible, though again we didn't try here, and I assume it would still be a difficult problem, that if you had 5 authors and each author was writing a sentence at a time, you could simply look at sentences instead of documents, and if the passage were long enough, somehow distinguish the differences between the sentences. There is other research, for example, in that Wright Prince paper that deals with shorter messages like eBay comments, and they still were quite effectively able to just figure out who the original author was of an eBay comment, which is only a sentence or 2 long. So that's a good point, but I still think that there's potential for problems there.
Maybe we can try with each author write a part of the sentences.
Yeah, you can keep drilling it down for sure. I mean, there's a lot of questions that come from this, and we really hope that making a public attack data set available will help other researchers also look at some of these questions.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to the other mic, please keep the doors open. If people want to leave, they've got to be able to do so. So please go more to the middle, behind those chairs, or maybe here at the sideway. Okay, the other mic.
So my question is stylometry applicable to programming languages, or what is the criteria for stylometry?
So, yeah, so again, stylometry specifically deals generally with linguistic features, but if you're wondering if some form of authorship recognition is applicable to programming languages, it absolutely is. Anyone here that has worked in academia knows that there are many programs out there that identify plagiarism in source code. And that's one application of authorship recognition to find out if something had been plagiarized or not. And there are many different ways of doing that. So, I mean, just a slight tweak to that program itself could look at actually authorship recognition of the code rather than just whether or not it was plagiarized.
Thank you.
Okay.
So it is possible to recognize
certainly.
it. Wow. Back to this mic.
I just wanted to ask whether you have looked at or considered to look at scientific texts like or domain-specific natural language like research papers by mathematicians or academic publications by lawyers and stuff like that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, domain-specific analysis is something that we're very interested in. We haven't done that in this study. We think that developing the attack passages will be a little more difficult because you'll need people from that specific field to develop the attack passages, but we are very interested in what would happen if you look at a very domain-specific realm, domain-specific area that you have much less wiggle room, so to speak, in changing your writing style because you have to talk about a very specific subject. Yes.
Okay, back to that mic.
So first of all, newspeak may not be that bad, at least if you want to stay anonymous. But the question is, do you know if the techniques are used in court as evidence, and if you do, how knowledgeable are the people that use these techniques?
They are used in court. There are, I know one common method is one called the cumulative sum method that we weren't able to, actually didn't, well, it doesn't matter when we found out about it, but that is a method that's used in court, the cumulative sum method. As for how expert the people that employ those in court are, I can't really speak to that. I'm not entirely sure, but that is a good question. But yeah, something I think that the court issue of using stylometry in forensics is something that should be looked at. As with many other aspects of court evidence, even DNA evidence, there's studies out there that say it can be faked, it can be modified, it can be tricked, and I think this is no different from those scenarios where it should be taken into consideration in all these cases.
Okay, please.
Yes, I wondered why the stylometry attacks you showed us did not include some sort of error detection mechanism in humans, because I think if one thing is idiosyncratic for us humans, then it's what kind of typos, for example, we do, what kind of punctuation errors we make.
Right.
And that would, I think, also help to avert those imitation attacks greatly, because you just can't write like some famous author. Because if you could, then you could make money from it.
Okay, I'm not quite sure I understood the question.
Yes, is there a method that employs these techniques?
Typos as a feature? Yeah, I mean, certainly typos can be used as a feature. I think that we didn't consider that in this one, but as I said, there's many different features that could be used for stylometry. We tried to cover a broad base of them, but did not cover all of them. I'd imagine a lot of basic typos would be weeded out by most word processors, but certainly grammar errors and things like that would be viable features.
Yes, but you could also do some analysis over the text and how it is written as an, writing or authoring is a craft, so there are certain stylistic errors that could be identified.
Right, see which stylistic errors come up often from a certain author and find them. Yes, that's what I mean by using that as a feature. Yeah, that is definitely a viable feature. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. The other microphone.
If I'm a whistleblower and I want to publish some document I've written, would it be a good idea to give it to a friend and to tell him, please paraphrase this for me? I think that would certainly help. I mean, having having someone else in their own writing style write it would be a good thing to do, I think. Just paraphrasing. So yeah. Would it be easy to link this back to me, or to perhaps to the friend who helped me, or do you have any data? How easy it would be to link that document back to me after it was paraphrased?
I don't have any data speaking to that. I don't have any data speaking to how easy it would be to track it back to you if someone paraphrased your writing. I am interested in. This goes back to the scope of the features I was talking about. We're only looking at, in this case, sentence length features. But I think there's lots of other features that could be extracted in terms of narrative structure that look over not just sentences, but paragraphs and pages and whole documents. And I would imagine that those features might be harder to strip out if you had someone else paraphrase your writing, because they're still going to be paraphrasing it with the narrative structure that you laid out for them. So is it possible that it would help you? Sure. Is it possible that it could still be traced back to you? Sure. I can't speak conclusively to it, though, because we have not tested it in that way.
Okay, thank you. This microphone, please.
Hello. So have you tried a kind of normalization attack, so that you put all text into a kind of standard form? So you, for example, if all the authors would agree that they use very simple grammar rules, like only using subject, verb, object, and then you look at the content words and you look them up into in a database like WordNet, and you replace them by a very common synonym. So I think all the text should be pretty similar, and then must be very difficult to distinguish between them.
You're right. I have two things to say to that. One is that we informally asked a few of the authors how they decided to hide their writing style, and a number of them said, well, I dumbed down my writing style. I wrote simpler sentences, I used less complex words, and so on. But another thing that I want to make a point to is that we asked all the authors that when they're hiding their writing style, I should have mentioned this in the slide, that we wanted to pass a so-called human readability test. We want someone to be able to pick up this modified passage, read it,